what, 19 now?
Yeah, it's a good run.
Yeah.
It's a good run. A lot has happened since we've last spoken.
Yeah.
The Warriors are NBA champions.
Yeah, it's been a few weeks since we said
Hell is frozen over. Like, the super team situation is problematic.
It's a weird thing to say, and like for LeBron not to own up to him putting the first team together that kind of changed the era.
Yeah,
is weird.
It was a reaction to a reaction.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
I mean, it's a whole chain of events, so
yeah,
I get it. But
yeah. How have you been?
I've been pretty good, man. I've been working, designing. I think the last time we recorded was before we actually had our meeting for the live event, right?
Yeah, so we're doing the live event. What day is that? July
13th.
July 13th.
Baltimore County Public Libraries. It's going to be at the Woodlawn branch. We have an hour and a half.
Yeah, so it's gonna be like a keynote speech. I'm gonna probably wear my my swagless Steve Jobs black turtleneck with the all white shoes.
And you're gonna walk back and forth with your hands put together.
And I'm gonna just talk to you about something that you've had forever that I'm gonna make slightly better. This is a cup of tea.
What's your PowerPoint situation gonna be like?
I was telling him about PowerPoint.
Yeah, I was gonna say we still kind of.
I love PowerPoints. I'm a big fan of PowerPoints.
Yeah, they offered up like a whole bunch of stuff. They was like, yeah, we can give you a computer, you can have PowerPoint and all that. We was like, all right, well, we just gotta figure out
what to put on.
I think I'm gonna put stick figures. I'm a big fan of stick figures. So 2 things I love to do. I love stick figures. And when I give my girlfriend cards, I like to I'll give her like a Happy Father's Day card, but I scratch it out and make it a custom card. It's something genuine.
I think you won't buy a blank card, but you'll buy an inappropriate card and depiction.
Yes, I think that's
like a serial killer.
Make it different. I think there's something so funny about seeing a card that says like "Happy Retirement" and then making it about somebody's anniversary. It's just I do it constantly, and I can't tell if she loves it or hates it.
Yeah. But if you think about it, some phrases can be applied to multiple situations. You just got to figure out.
Yeah. So you're over the hill.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Yeah. Anyway.
And then I guess right after the live event, there's like a 50-50 chance I might be going to Portland for a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. The Penn Soul situation.
Yeah. Just got the confirmation that I was a finalist and got selected for that. So
congratulations.
Apparently they only take like 4% of designers for it. So if I can get everything situated for that, I'll be gone right after, the week after the live event. So
all right. So you probably won't say this because you're a humble person, but
okay.
Dante Cotton is one of the best designers I've seen. His stuff is dope. His color schemes for stuff is really cool, and I think that you have a very amazing future ahead of you, man.
Thank you.
And this is just, I don't like to give out compliments like that to people. I think you're a talented guy, man. Just wanted to let you know.
Yeah. And we went to go see Baby Driver in the meantime.
We did. We saw Baby Driver ahead of time. The Edgar Wright movie, Shaun of the Dead. What else did he do? He did the comic book movie. The comic about the girlfriends. The guy that has the girlfriends and it. No, so the guy who wants to date the girl.
Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah, Scott Pilgrim.
Scott Pilgrim Saved the World.
Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Yeah.
He did that. He did Hot Fuzz.
Yes.
He did all those movies. So he did a very interesting change. It's kind of genre bending. Honestly, it's shot like La La Land, but it's an action movie that's heavy into this guy's playlist. So this kid baby is a driver that's.
It's not a kid baby. His nickname is Baby.
His nickname is Baby. He's a younger guy that does escape driving for robbers. And he has some mental issues, and to keep him calm.
He has tinnitus.
Yeah,
he got into an accident when he was younger, so it kind of throws off his hearing. So he listens to music. That's the whole premise of him listening to music through all the scenes. And
so think Guardians of the Galaxy. If you think the way the Guardians of the Galaxy's music kind of was the thread, this is even more intricate and more integral.
And there are points where they like sync up to the music, where they're like pointing or door opens to the music.
Cool.
It's
But an action movie shot like a musical. There's like the first scene has. I mean, I'm big into movies. Check out Movie Schmovie. There's a scene that is about 5 minutes of a continuous shot of him walking to get coffee.
Yeah,
it's incredible, especially if you like pay attention to one take shots. Like it's seamless.
And then the colors too. It's a lot of big flavor color. If you're a colors person, it's a lot of reds, blues, and like you can tell that it's symbolic to different things. Like you have to speak to the director about why you use certain colors for certain scenes because they repeat throughout the movie. So that's another thing about it. And then the theater, like we were surprised how nice it was.
It was like
leather reclining seats, like with like automatic buttons. So we were like, oh,
it was nuts.
Like they went back too far actually, because like if you pushed it all the way back, you probably couldn't see the screen. Like you could literally take a nap on it.
Security mall.
Oh wow.
Near there.
Yeah, they remodeled it.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, there's like a fourth of the seats that there normally are in the theater, but. Worth it. Worth it. It was very good. It comes out the 28th. I guess that's our early review of it.
Yeah.
See it. It's a really good movie. It comes out the 28th. What else?
What have you been up to?
I had a mixtape come out, The Way In. My cousin and I. So, first and foremost, let it be known, I've never been known to be a person that rhymes, but my cousin's like, I used to do music for him. I used to do beats for him. And during the course of the time, I would tell him, like, you should say this. And he'd be like, man, why don't you just write some stuff down? And so we decided to do it. One of the beats on it is, what was it? At the end of the Dave Chappelle special, Every Ghetto, by Talib Kweli. We rapped over that.
Yeah.
It's a song called Revolution. Real dope. Working with my cousin has been really interesting because, like, I have a lot of talented family members. Right. You know, my other cousin's a comedian. This one can rhyme his ass off. And I realized that if you work with somebody that you love, good stuff tends to come out.
Yeah.
So, and that actually plays into our theme of today's episode a little bit.
Before we get into that, I do want to say rest in peace, Prodigy, because that kind of messed me up.
Yeah, man, this is probably one of the hardest losses, honestly. Losing Prodigy, Albert Einstein, Alchemist, and his album together. I ask anybody. I have that song. That album in my car. I put it on every playlist. I put at least one or two songs from it. So rest in peace, Prodigy. All the stuff that did with Mobb Deep. Halfway Cooks, the show that he had on the internet was really good about jail food. He's a really interesting person who was heavy into Illuminati theories, which I love. So
also wanted to shout out one of our previous guests, Dino. Just had the Baltimore Sneaker Show past weekend. Had a great event. Kevin Plank showed up to support for it.
Dolo.
Yep.
Dolo. When Kevin Plank came to a very hood sneaker event by himself, he's like, I'm by myself.
Yeah. And it's a really funny picture that's floating around. It's like him standing next to everybody and Dino standing right next to him. And he kind of looks like he got like that Tupac stance.
But yeah, man, like I guess the common thought is that he doesn't really do stuff like this very often. But I worked at Under Armour for a couple years. And he would go to the projects, like, to present, like he's fixed up a bunch of fields around the city. He'll go anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. I never really thought before I met him, I was like, he's not that sort of dude.
Right.
He's interesting.
And
also gives genuine daps, like real, like not even like phony scarf hand, white curls up there.
I heard about Obama too.
For real? I can believe it, man.
Yeah,
he was on the campaign trail. He was like crowds of people, and this mixed crowd. And he reached out his hand, not just expecting to get the the soft touch. He said Obama pulled him in hard, like, all right, okay, all right. This is when he's on campaign, so he was like really like, I see you, I acknowledge you.
Yeah, that's
so that peel sketch is accurate then.
Yeah, I can believe it. So the voices that you hear, two very amazing people, Jamyla and Pierre Bennu. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm happy 18th anniversary.
Thank you.
I saw that posted. How do you do it? How do you do it? There's an amount of like passion and love that is emitted through your words and actions and pictures and presence that I don't see very often with couples.
You have to talk it, whatever it is. I don't know if we do a thing like it's. I don't know if we tried to do this, it would work because we have no. I don't know of any models we have really.
Right.
I don't know any like happily married 20-year married like people to be like, yeah, that's who we look at them and say if we could just.
We actually do know a couple now.
Well,
but
when I'm saying like
back then, like when we were first deciding, like, hey, let's do this, for real. We didn't have any reason to expect that it would be this. No. You know what I mean? Like, and in the sense of having seen models before, right? Anyway, but I don't know. As far as how do you do it, we just have a we have fun.
That's it. Like we were having so much. We always call it like a sleepover. Like when you're at your friend's house, when you're a kid, your best friend, and then your parents come, you're like, oh man, we didn't do this. We didn't play the game. Like this is like that sleepover, but your parents aren't coming. Wow. That's how this whole relationship has been. So in the time that our parents aren't here to get us, we've just been doing everything, and that fun translates into everything. Right. You know what I mean? And we found little.
I also think that the fact that we have fun together is definitely a really big chunk of it. But I think that the fact that we work together and that both of us not only like each other but also like the work that we do also plays into it.
True. Like you and your cousin, when you're talking about rhyming with your cousin, the whole bunch of shorthand you have without even saying anything because you already know the auntie do this and the house gonna smell this way if you walk in late. Like this, all of this information, all of this shared thing that happens before a mic is even turned on, and it's kind of the same thing. There's a lot of shorthand between us. So when we work together, it's just like, okay, how do we apply what it is we are to this? Like you and your cousins could write the one, you have another cousin, Valence, who's very funny. Like if y'all decided to start writing sketches and performing them, it's not like you have to know each other. Like it'll fall into place. And at the worst, it'll be fun, and you get nothing done. And at the best, you'll be like, oh, this is great, and you produce a lot of stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh. So if you were to summarize what each of you two do, what would it be? If you're looking at TV and they have like something / under your names. Yeah. Right. What would for each of you go? What would it say for what it is that you, and I'm not trying to reduce what you do to a couple descriptions, but it's
understood. No, that's a really good challenge.
People need tangible things.
Right.
Well, I've invented a line of hair and body care products. So that is what I still do, is make that stuff.
That is huge. It's not like a small thing. Right. I invented. Any invent in this thing. That's huge.
I mean,
that's incredible.
Right? So
yes.
That's a
thing. Her whole family's a bunch of geniuses anyway. I'm not even gonna get into that, but that being brilliant is emblematic of her clan. I'm just like, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So yeah, that's I guess it would be the
I make stuff.
Yeah.
And you, sir?
I make artsy stuff.
Out of wine too.
Right.
Oh, what the hell? Did you see that?
He makes art out of literally everything.
So somebody asked him if he wanted to drink. He said he doesn't drink, and then he took the wine and made a picture out of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like
everything he touches, he makes art out of, literally.
So just artist and filmmaker. I don't know if those are two separate things, but I've been making films since I was 8. I've been drawing and painting and sculpting from before then. So everything I've put my hands on has had that element woven into it somehow.
Gotcha.
Storyteller. My thing isn't as succinct as I made these things. You can buy them here. Right. I'm just like, I do art.
I do art. I make stuff. He does art. How about that?
Too big.
No, that is actually so. It's something that I talk to Dante about a lot because Dante has kind of gotten into this clothing design thing, and that is very broad because you're making the art for the shirts, but I don't think he realizes how broad his artistry is. Right. He doesn't even know. Sometimes when he's describing what he does to me, he doesn't know what it is in terms of like how broad it is. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you're essentially a storyteller through that stuff. Yeah. You do the most succinct version of storytelling that you can possibly do. Somebody sees a shirt, they're like, oh, Ride Over Souls, not souls. They're like, oh, shit, I can relate to that. Very quickly, you've told a story about your brand and what it represents. So people don't, it's something that, so I guess the moniker of artist is a very fitting thing for people that just want to create. Because when you try to make yourself one thing, you get kind of pigeonholed and you feel like you have to make
I think there's a paradigm shift. Yeah. Okay. I think there's always been a kind of a security in being a thing. Yeah. This guy's a bus driver. This person is a stock person. He works on Wall Street. But the paradigm shift is happening, and I think we see it in our technology. Our phones they do a billion different things. You're playing games. They do everything. You guys were talking about sports earlier. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants a center and a power forward. They want a 7-footer who can shoot threes. So every person can kind of play every position. Right. And I find that happening as jobs start to kind of deteriorate and go to robots essentially. I think people are starting to discover the fullness of themselves. Yeah. Yeah, because we've kind of delegated the responsibility of art to artists. We've kind of delegated the responsibility of being a farmer to farmers. But you see now people are like, oh, I grow my own tomatoes. So, and I painted this painting I hung on my wall. I printed it out on Facebook. Or, you know what I'm saying?
So, I went to a paint and sip. Now I have a piece of
but as we're slowly seeing people becoming kind of like their phones, they're becoming multifaceted. They're starting to own all the dynamics of what it is they are. And I've kind of felt like I've been taking an L for a lot of my life because I've never been like, I just do this art. But as it starts to broaden, I feel like, I'm getting in my bag. Like I'm feeling a little bit more comfort as people start to embrace being multifaceted, because that's just I don't feel comfortable being any one thing, because sometimes it's a song, sometimes it's a bit, sometimes it's a painting, sometimes it's a film. So feeling I have to do a film to express a thought is
what I've been trying to do is extend the same courtesy to other people, because I don't think that people necessarily do it. They want to be seen as a multidimensional person, a multidimensional artist, but when like a celebrity talks about politics, they're like, why is this person doing two things? Right. Why are they occupying two spaces? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Yeah. Right. Respect me as an artist and as a basketball player and as they want that. People want to be respected because people are complex. Right. Yeah. So my job is to try to encourage people to extend the courtesy to other people.
And I think that's kind of what we do here. Like we're having the conversations with people and trying to expose that and have people show that they're not just one thing.
Right. So if you talk to a martial artist and they're like, you know what, I like comedy, we wouldn't be like, oh, that is the worst. Yeah, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, that's crazy. Tell us about it. Right. So you can flash that out. People want to have their art respected. Right. You know what I mean?
I think as a parent too, you have to be all these things. You know what I'm saying? It's like you don't. Your child is hungry to go, like, I'm not a chef. So I'm going to get different eggs. But, you know what I'm saying? You can't. It's like, I don't read stories, so that's not my. You have to kind of be multifaceted in a way. And people, I should probably, as we spoke about it, said parent, because that's a job that people do not even see. They don't see parents. Right. It's a word, and they go, oh, you're a parent. But I'm like, everyone has them. Yes. And no one speaks to it. We don't get marches. We don't get. We don't have rights. We don't have better seats in the theater. Like, but it's the basis of all of civilization is who raises you at home. After school, like who is that person at home talking to you? Yeah. And it's such a it requires everything of you. You know what I mean? In a way that having a 9 to 5 does not. being like without China. I'm not trying to in any way diminish not having. I think we were complete humans before we had kids, but it's a different gear when you know you have to. Right. You know what I'm saying? Me and Jay didn't eat every day. We'd have fun. Like, hey, you sleep on the floor, sleep in the living room, when you know you have to wake up tomorrow, you have to, because that person has to go to school, or they have to eat every day, and they have to be a healthy meal. You can't just give them, pizza every day. You got to be like, oh, we got to cook a thing, and what are the ingredients in it, and check the label. Like, when you have to, it takes who you think you are to a different level. There's a whole, like, how there's like attic in the house that you haven't been in. It's like, oh, snap, this stuff up here. Like, you discover all of this space about yourself and things that you didn't know, not that you didn't know you could do, but you weren't asked to do them. You had the option. It was optional at some point. So I think being a parent has helped us explore the breadth of what it is we could do and who we are. Yeah,
that's fair. Yeah, definitely.
That's cool. Did it influence how imperative it was to turn what you love into something that you could earn some money for? Like, you know what I mean? Like, or that was always a thing?
That was always the thing.
That was always a thing. Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of
incredible.
It
just influenced our need to go to bed earlier.
Yeah.
Because they'll wake us up at 6:30 whether we've gone to bed at 2 or not.
So as far as like being creators, is there certain steps that you do to like get in your zone, or is there a certain path that you follow when you want to start making something?
Yeah, there's so when I'm making it, so I'm building a bunch of new products right now, and that's very exciting to me because I kind of had to fight to get the room to get back in the lab in that way. There hadn't been room for that. It was a lot of my energy was going toward running the company, toward marketing, toward sales, toward other things that are very important to keep the company going, but we're also not the reason I got into this. I got into this because I really, really am interested in ingredients. I'm really interested in efficacy. I'm interested in like finding natural solutions for like personal care and stuff like that. Like that I'm interested in finding, like experimenting with new oils and new, finding a way to get mucilage from marshmallow root. Like that, I'm super interested in that stuff. And it had literally been years since I had been able to do that because of the so many other layers of different kinds of work that were necessary to maintain the products that I had already created. So so for me, the answer to what is my creative process, like quite literally, it had been like hammering out the room in my day to make sure that there was time for it.
Right.
And unfortunately, like when there are certain things in business and in making that are scalable, and there are certain things that are not. And sometimes when I think that creative impulse and the creative practice is the main thing that's not scalable. It's the hardest. It's one of the hardest things to outsource.
Yeah.
And so there's finding the room in the day to give myself kind of permission to and then also finding other mechanisms and other people who could help me with all that other stuff that had piled itself on top of that creative time. Also had to happen. So but that being said, once I had that time, it was about researching ingredients. It was about buying stuff and playing with it and like just getting my hands dirty, like getting like 5 different new oil samples and then like getting to play with them and feel them and just get your hands in to the products and mixing them together and then doing research. And it's also an interesting, like when formulating, there's so much math involved as well. Like you have to build spreadsheets, you have to make sure that all your ratios are correct, you have to make sure it's properly preserved. Like that kind of stuff is good nerdy fun too. Like I like that. I love building a recipe, a formulation spreadsheet. I love like playing with, if I add 0.4% additional emulsifier, how much more thicker does this product get? How much more worse or does my grammar get? But like those kind of things, and playing and doing multiple batches and keeping the lab notes and that kind of stuff is so fun to me.
Oh wow!
So yeah.
So in the last, I'd say like 2 years or so, or 3, let's say 5 years. Okay. There's been a booming business around black hair and natural hair, and a lot of businesses have kind of popped up where they were kind of obscure before, and some have kind of been made from well-known companies that we know. And there's something that's consistent about your brand, and that's staying true to your customer base, not compromising that, and there's some integrity to that is very scarce. I'll say scarce in this industry, right? Yes. So how do you maintain that during the course of all of this? And I'll talk about something specifically that happened in the last lately. Okay. So your brand was mentioned on the read after everything that happened with other companies, kind of compromising the message. And you've always maintained a very consistent message. How do you do that?
So I have a lot of opinions and a lot of experience. Like we're I don't think I've said this. The brand is Oyin Handmade, right? That was important.
And the new men's line she's working on is
Really? I can't wait.
Maybe you need to talk to you, because anyway, we'll talk. What's coming down the line.
It's very exciting. So all right. So that is the name itself. Is a Yoruba word. It's a West African word for honey, and it's just one of my favorite words, and always has been since I was a little girl. But also it's a good ingredient, but it also like symbolizes sweetness and joy and love and delight. And so that's always been our message. It's what we named the brand, and that's because that's kind of at core what we wanted to do, was to bring a feeling of joy and African-centered affirmation to your everyday acts of self-care. Like, we think it's important. We think that there are powerful ingredients that come from that continent. We feel like there is a lack of affirmation of features that come from that continent that all of us share to a greater or lesser degree, and that they are worth affirming. And to me, it's not a question of whether or not to continue affirming those things, to continue respecting, the planet and its natural bounty, to continue respecting the first products that were created, I created for myself because I cared about natural ingredients. I had very highly textured hair, and I couldn't find naturally sourced products for hair as highly textured as mine, that needed gentle care, that needed, deep moisture. Like, I needed those things, but I couldn't find things that would provide those attributes but also have natural ingredients. So that's why I made them first for myself. And it was years until I realized, oh wow, other people who don't have hair like mine can use this stuff too. Anyone whose hair is dry or anyone whose hair likes gentle treatment can use this stuff, and that is all good, But at the same time, like, I still, in my personal politics, feel like it's important to speak to a segment of the buying public who is not spoken to, because I'm a member of that segment of the buying public. Absolutely. Me and my nappy hair, I grew up with never seeing people who looked like me affirmed or spoken about in any way that was not a problem. and
or even marketed to.
Or marketed
let's even put it there.
Period. Yeah. Even if you do market to me like my hair is a problem.
Yeah. Right.
Even that, like, what was hardly happening. So I found empowerment in creating affirming marketing. Like, we're never gonna say, your hair is a problem, here's how you fix it.
Right.
Buy this product so that you can fix this fundamental thing about yourself that is wrong.
Yeah.
Like, that's not
most advertising. And that's what we're finding out, like, as we grew, as we became more successful and kind of got more into the corporate thing. Corporate language is, you're lacking, here's the thing to fill that void.
So you'll never do a commercial where there's like a person messing with their hands like, It's like you do it right. Like you'll know. I've noticed that the language is very much like, I love my hair.
Right.
This is an extension of that.
Right.
You know, rather than it being like, I get it. That's pretty incredible. So when very recently when you heard that your name had been mentioned, and then people were kind of pointing to your business as an alternative to some of the detrimental sort of language that was being used in the messaging. How was it? How did the business?
Did Shea Butter Twitter find you?
Right. They found us. Yes, Shea Butter Twitter came and represented.
And the hotepping. We all came.
Shout out. But yeah, they did, and it's it was very interesting because first of all, like I'm never gonna like celebrate the misstep of one of my competitors. You know what I mean? Like that's not a happy feeling. You know, like, oh, somebody messed up, yay, or somebody is a bunch of their core consumers feel betrayed by them. Woohoo! Like, that's not a happy moment. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not something that's fun to see. We live in an abundant universe. There's enough for everybody to get theirs, and there's and I don't believe in like a zero sum where like someone else has to lose in order for me to win. You know, so that aside, where it was very instructive to hear from customers and people who were not yet our customers, like to hear them identify us as something that answered a question of theirs, whether that question was cultural or political or even just like some of it is just identity. People were, interested in buying from companies that were independent or that were family owned or that were black owned or that are women owned. Like some of that stuff is important to people in their purchasing decisions, and then or some of it is about the messaging. Like I have a friend who said she was gonna make a T-shirt that said Jamyla and Pierre would never.
That'd be the best shirt ever.
Get on it.
We'll work it out. We'll produce it.
With a wagging finger. He would not do this.
But yeah,
that's incredible.
It was such a vote of confidence in the fact that, like we're a little company. Like this we are a part of a multi-billion-dollar industry making far less than multi-billions of dollars. You know what I'm saying? Like we are a tiny little minuscule pinprick.
Don't do that.
Of a percentage of this industry.
But we've been around. Let's say that too.
Yes, we have been
as
around.
That family store. We've been on this block since before it was
block. It's true. It's very true. And so I think that is part of it. I think that even if people find out about us anew, because there's many companies, like you said, now who are answering this need and who are trying to fill this segment in the marketplace, many of whom have a lot louder voices than us and a lot wider distribution than us and that kind of stuff. But there still is the capacity for people to find us, and even if you're new to us, like you can see that we're not new to this, and you can look back and see that we're telling the same story we've always told. This isn't new to us. We didn't like switch from our booming relaxer business and realize market trends are such that we should probably start making things out of shea butter. Like, no, this is all we've ever done. And so I think part of that is just like the longevity
And I think some of that speaks to the way the language people are comfortable being marketed to in like and over time, like we've never done the that we've never done that in any way, shape, or form. We've kind of been like, you're awesome. You're awesome. You've been that affirming thing. It's just weird. Like when people found us, it was kind of reactionary almost. They were like, well, fine, I need to find me a. And
I guess I'll go find a positive company then.
Right.
Yeah. So people are like, okay, hi,
right,
nice to meet you. But also there is another interesting thing in that, like that kind of integrity and of having the same story over time, and that kind of insistence on a positive marketing message. That's not a thing that's quantifiable.
No,
you know what I mean? That's not a thing that is going to automatically result in sales. And we are,
or neither do hits or attention or likes or ads.
Right. And so it's just about how are you doing business in a way that feels good to you. Yeah. That's ultimately the only reason to do it is not because like I know if I commit to paying my employees a living wage, and if I commit to always doing affirming marketing, I know without a doubt that I'm going to become a millionaire in XYZ years because this is a proven system. That's not the case. Like if you do it, you have to do it because that's what matters to you. And then also servicing the business within that, whatever matters to you. Right. You also have to do that work to service the business, trying to make sure that it is successful. But but it's not like one begets the other.
Right.
Yeah. Integrity doesn't like necessarily keep the lights on.
Right.
Look.
Exactly.
I
think we all know.
Yeah.
There's something to it though. Like I think the cool part about it is it's like a preparedness when people come to the product. You already have the mission statement. You already have the storied history of having integrity about these things, the positive messages. That seems very. It's good that you were. It's almost like, when I used to work with this guy, right, and we used to do stock, and I do stock no matter what. I'd be like, what if the boss just sneaks up one day? He was like, the boss he's not just gonna pop up. So when the boss would leave, he would just stop. Right? Yeah. So one day, the boss came in and like hid. And I was still stacking boxes. And I'm not saying I'm always like this. Don't get me wrong. I know it's laziness. I'm stacking boxes up. He's like sitting back smoking in the stockroom. The boss comes around the corner. He's like, yo, fired him. I'm just saying there's something about working when nobody's looking.
Right. It's the unseen. It's always the unseen work.
Yeah, it's the unseen work. It's putting those extra shots in, and it's all that stuff. Writing or in the case of he's seen me, I do stand up whenever I can. Yeah. I will embarrass myself whenever I can. I will throw myself in the fire. Even when old ladies are like, what is a Nike Adidas Yeezy? What is a Adidas Yeezy? I don't get a Yeezy. What is that? Doesn't matter. It was about me getting this joke off and trying this stuff. It doesn't matter. But yeah, you try. Right. Yeah,
it's hard though. I mean, honestly, it's hard. I'm not gonna complain, but there are moments when you feel stubborn for being yourself, and you can't. You don't know that you're not going to starve by the time the trend comes back around. It's like me wearing bell bottoms. I'm like, I know these are coming back. And you know they are at some point. Yeah. They have to. Like, tight jeans came back. Like, why are we platform? People are rocking. Like, Tim's are platforms. So, what I'm saying is, like, I'm going to stick with these bell bottoms. And this is what I do. And hopefully they'll come back. And it's just... I don't know. I feel like I'm wearing bell bottoms sometimes because I'm like, our ingredients. I do because I'm like, the ingredients are amazing. Right. But I'm on the shelf next to let me not say that. Anyway, I get it. But you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like we put our heart into this. It's actually handmade. Like you have a full-on scientist thinking about the effects of what your hair and skin are. It's just, I don't know if anyone is putting this much thought into it. Anyway,
you know what it is.
Let me
I think everyone puts thought into it. I don't know if that's it, but I think that for us, there are few companies that run as lean as we do and do as many things as we do. The fact that we that I am the formulator, but also that we self-manufacture is very rare. So the fact that we do e-commerce direct to our consumers, but also are in distribution, that's not normal. It's really rare for a company that's in distribution to self-manufacture. More common is that they will have a manufacturing partner, and so the founders of the company are focused on marketing. Right. And so that is not the case with us. So we're running this little factory, right, trying to make enough stuff to go in, and then because I am then tasked with marketing to service the stuff that's out there, then because I don't have a separate R&D department and I don't have a separate manufacturer, that means 3 years go by without us introducing new products. And so that is like, these are ways in which kind of, like, I think what we see, like, we're seeing different types of machines running in different types of ways, you know? Yeah. And so I think that may be like some of what we experience is like, why are we doing the most? It's this feels like we're doing the absolute most. It's like and part
it's
of it's
running
kind of
while
hard.
Trying to change your shoes into like a hot new shoe. Right,
but you cannot stop running because the race is gonna stop.
Right,
so,
you can't stop running. Yeah.
That is a pretty interesting juggle. It's a juggling act.
It is.
But the juggling act is all of it is quality, which is good. Like I feel like I got some lotion, and I was like, this stuff is not like something I've used before. It's something about when you put it on your skin, you're like, all right, I'm gonna let this sit for a couple hours. You walk around in the sun, you're like, you get some cheap stuff, it just it feels good on you. Yeah. I love that. I love it. I gotta get another tub.
There's a whole vat of it just to sit in the house.
I do.
Thank you. That means a lot. We feel like it makes a difference, and we feel like folks deserve excellent stuff made by people who care about them.
Yeah, So how did these two entities come together? Like a person that makes stuff and a person that does art. Like how'd that end up on a crash course?
I feel like, wow. I'm kind of more the creative end as far as just creation, and Jay is kind of more, I'll bring this to life. And we have this thing called a dream hammer.
All right.
Where we come up with something and then we dream hammer it, which is, okay, how do we make this reality? It's like, I want a helicopter. It should be purple. It's like, okay, dream hammering it would be like, what we need is transportation. We have enough for a skateboard. So how do we find, what's the middle ground? So we just hammer it out until we find out that we got a really fly electric bicycle. So that's the dream hammering of it. It's a fly electric bicycle. That'll get us to where the helicopter is eventually. We quit our jobs. We got together, talking about marriage.
Also, what we describe as what we do, like the making stuff and the being the artist stuff, like that we've been together as we mentioned at the top of the interview for 18, 19 years now. Right. So a lot of this stuff has evolved during the course of while we were already together. We kind of, figuring this stuff out has been a part of what we've done.
And it's our strengths. We work in our strengths, and luckily our strengths, you know what I mean? It's like complement each other. Yeah. Like we both like the cherry in the middle, and she likes the vanilla. I like the chocolate. You know what I mean? Like, so you know what I'm saying? We both it gets done. And when we left our jobs respectively, we were like, okay, we're smart enough to figure this out. So we initially, Oyin was one of the things. We threw everything to the wall that we could possibly do. So I wrote a book at that time, which she made happen.
Which is a great book.
Thank you. Still in print. Still doing well.
Name of it?
It's called Bullshit or Fertilizer, or BS or Fertilizer. Tough Love for Artists on the Fence. It's a really quick read, and it's meant to be that. It's meant to be just like, all right, you read it. Let's get on you.
You can get a physical copy. You can get digital. It's Absolutely. Like on iBooks and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a Kindle version.
And,
And so we did that. We taught a writing performance workshop out of our house. We did like a freestyle DJ dance class. Oyin came from out of the fridge and like, we sell this now.
Let's build a website.
We literally we were early adopters of selling things on the internet too. So that was a big benefit. We adopted this new technology early, but we threw everything to the wall and we said whatever doesn't pay for itself, we stop doing.
Wow.
And so Oyin was one of those things, and the language of that we can't afford hobbies and we're just going to continue doing what pays for itself, helped us kind of delegate how to, get something creative and functional in our lives. And I mean, this is just kind of who we did a movie, did a feature-length film. Lost our apartment, but we got the film.
What was the name of it?
Oh,
Redbone Gorillas.
Redbone Gorillas.
Yeah.
You think you'll ever show it?
It did.
It shows every now and then. It showed at Black Star Film Festival 2 years ago.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
They did a retrospective. It was like 15 years deep at that point.
Yeah. And then it showed at the Patterson. Soon after we moved here, it showed it at BAM.
Creative Alliance. Remember Creative Alliance very early.
Yeah.
Wow.
It showed at Brooklyn Academy of Music. It showed we screened it in a rainforest at St. Croix, which is a very interesting story, but that's another podcast. But it's done its rounds. We had a version of Netflix before Netflix.
Wow.
With that film, because we were like, okay, we can't stream this. Damn you, Netflix! I want my money.
We used to mail VHS or DVD. You could choose because we were very high tech. But then we were still on the cusp of some people still have VHS, and so we would mail copies out and for a rental fee. Like we did our own little distribution, like through our website. We would mail copies out. People would screen it. I think they would send the copy back.
We had like a little shipping back thing, and we had like a little thing that you filled out. Like, are there more than 5 people there? What do they think of the film? Like, we had this whole thing.
Wow.
And it was so goofy to look back now. We had these big VHS, VHS boxes were mad big.
With the arrows, big red. Jesus.
So we used to mail that out.
Yeah.
It was so clunky and horrible, but it's like
we got the movie out there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, what are innovative ways to get this message out there? What's available to us? This is before iFilm. Remember, iFilm was before YouTube. So
Right.
But it was just like, how do we had to make creativity functional, and that's how it's always been in our lives. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not enough. Art's not just this thing you put on the wall and it's there and you're here. It's like, how do I make this creative thing that's in all of us a functional thing that works for me? That's a byproduct, but like, you know what I mean? How do I make that help me think different? Because the structure that's given to me isn't given to me to win. It's given to me to be in a certain place. That's how it works. Gotcha. You know what I mean? Not for better or for worse. That's just how it works. You're number 5. But how do I think outside of that? How do I think past numbers even, or a binary system? So,
Okay. So you guys met in New York and moved to Baltimore.
Eventually.
Tell me about it. How did that happen? And look, no insult to Baltimore. I'm just saying that New York is a very fast-paced place. Yeah. Where dreams come true, according to a lot of people.
A lot of dreams die in New York. A lot of dreams don't come true in New York. I don't know. We're both from New York. We met there. How do we get to Baltimore?
We were shopping for a new city.
We were shopping for a new city.
We were looking for a place. We wanted to buy a house, and we are not millionaires, and so that wasn't possible in New York.
Right.
And so that is one of the things that caused us to go around and shop for a new city, right? But other things were that we had screened the movie here. We had screened RPG here.
Yeah. Oh.
Yes. Somebody. It was Now Child Art Soundstage. Yep. So it was like an independent, black-owned, indie guerrilla art space that brought us from New York and screened our
packed, film. And they were like,
it was so dope.
They were roaring. You're like, It was like.
And so to us, like, and then also like, we liked the city, but that was also our first introduction to it.
Right.
And so immediately perceived like, one, there's our folks are here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's a scene of independent artists of color who, one, are supportive of each other, who, two, like, are interested in creating and maintaining and supporting independent art.
Right.
What's this Baltimore thing about? And like wandered around, came back a couple more times, maybe once over the summer. Did that Live Baltimore tour?
Yeah, and it reminded me,
like, boom, bet.
Literally,
bet.
And it reminded me of the New York I grew up in,
Yeah.
which had been increasingly. I mean, it's completely gone now.
Yeah.
But at the time we were living in New York, I was suffering from a lot of stress, and when I came here, I was just like, oh my gosh, this looks like Flatbush Avenue in 1986. Like this, it just the feel, like, you know how
it
there's
felt
a certain
familiar,
it
immediately
felt really
familiar.
it felt like home.
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
yeah.
I recognize this kind of crazy.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? The crazy seemed familiar. I knew who I was in this space.
Yeah.
And I just felt at home. And I would like to say too that there's a psychology. There's something that happens to you, when you see the sunset behind buildings, and there's something that happens to you when you see the sunset behind trees, and just the architecture. You know, the old school brownstones, like how I knew in New York, even the way the projects were set up in Baltimore. But the fact that the tallest things in Baltimore weren't always the buildings.
Oh.
That touched me. Like, I could see the sky at night in some places.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's
like,
something to that.
There's something to that.
Yeah.
Like, the technology doesn't always win. I can't always get a good signal. Like that to me was like endearing. I was like, okay, I'm connected in a way that I can't be in New York.
Yeah.
You have to kind of pay for that connection in New York. You know what I mean? And pay either psychologically or financially. You have to like give up some money to go to a park, or you have to like be in a space where you don't feel welcome, or you're not. Or you're kind of what's the word I'm looking for? You're, I don't know. You're rare. You're exotic in that space. You know what I mean? You're not just comfortable. You're not. You know what I mean? You're diversity in that moment. And I'm like, I just want to chill.
Right.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
It's something nice about the blue collarness about this place. It's something that I can't ignore. It's something. It's why I'm having a hard time. I got a new job, and I'm like, it's in DC, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to leave, but like I got to be like halfway in, halfway out, and I still want to be in touch with all the art in Baltimore. I've been real conflicted about it.
About the job itself, or about the idea? Are you thinking of moving?
I think I may have to.
Really?
Wow.
Just because my girlfriend also works in DC, so like it's getting to a point now where like
everything is starting to line up.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're also probably spending like many hours a day.
I will be.
Like,
yeah, she does, and I will be. I don't start yet, but I will be. So that's something to think about. So speaking of coming to from New York to Baltimore, exit the Apple. That's tell me what it is, because it seems like this amoeba of creativity. It's like it fits in all these spaces.
It kind of is an amoeba. We've been trying for 20 years to define exit the apple and failing year after year.
But I think it's becoming something. And now that people are seeing that it's what I know it for is being an art space, and that seems to be the most tangible version of it. And that but that also means that there's the quality that comes with it. You think like, you two bringing something to the art space means that it's good. Right. So, I wouldn't expect like something low quality to be in the space.
I love it.
So
that's awesome.
That's great.
Good. That's a good base.
Good branding.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, definitely focus on excellence and perception, like seeing the world in a different way. I came up with that name when I was 16.
Wowzer.
Yeah, when I was 16, I did high school in California. I moved to Cali. My dad got this job as a dean. He got a job. Anyway, so he decided to move to Cali to be a dean at Cal State San Bernardino, and I went with him for my high school years, because like if I'm gonna go with you now, I ain't never gonna know you. So so I went with him, and I was so spoiled. In New York, you get all of this culture, and New York, if you're blindsided, I mean, the world has grown since then, of course, but it can be its own bubble.
It is.
Yeah. You don't have to go outside the bubble. You have the entire world in those 5 boroughs. Real talk. You could go down the street where they don't speak English, and you could be speaking Korean on that street, or Cuban Spanish, or you know what I mean? Like this whole right. That's what I'm saying. Like there's all kinds of ways to experience the world just in New York.
Right.
So when I left New York, when I exited the Apple, I was like, oh, the rest of the world has things. There's cultures. There's people who adhere to other rules and other things. Like it just knocked me off of. I just couldn't believe it. I was in such culture shock for like the first 2 years of high school.
Oh wow!
Like I couldn't believe that people like loved NWA the way they did. Like, these guys are hilarious. Like, this is not hilarious. It's my cult. I'm like, all right. So, okay. Like, this guy's wearing cornrows. Like, not cornrows. He's wearing rollers to school. You're not gonna say nothing about this? You got house slippers on. He's in homeroom with house slippers. I'm like, all right, we're doing that. But it was an amazing. It was just a revelation for me. So exiting the Apple for me was just like, okay, you have to think of culture, yourself, your ideas of excellence, blackness, everything. You have to reimagine it outside of your bubble.
Right.
What is leaving New York? What is leaving that comfort space? What is leaving that bubble give you? What is that experience? Right. What are the questions at being? What's that adventure? So that's kind of what Exit the Apple has meant to me. And I wrote my first script when I was 16. And I wrote like the company. That's what I was like, we need a company name. And so I Exit the
in
Apple.
your spiral notebook.
Yeah. My autism was, I was very.
Out your trapper keeper.
Yeah. I got one of those 200-page spiral books and hand wrote a script. It exists somewhere. But yeah, Exit the Apple is what I wrote on that script. And at the end. And I've kept that name ever since and kind of try to attach it to everything from t-shirt companies to rap groups to I've done everything under that moniker. And that's the only thing I've held on. That and this marriage are the two things I've held on to the longest.
How did you convince her to come down here?
Who?
Jamyla.
To come down to Baltimore?
She was good with it?
Oh,
Let me tell you something.
Okay, I didn't know that this was like a...
Oh, no.
Okay, this is like, let's go in.
Yeah,
okay.
no.
Because I didn't know if it was like, one of you was like, let's go.
No, my dude. Let me tell you something. We saw the house that we have. She just saw the yard. It was like, yes! I was like, can we go check the plumbing? Can we see if there's any leaks? She was like, this is it.
Yeah, I get it.
It was
it's
it.
an incredible space.
Yeah. And I was about to really get into it with the dudes who used to sit on our steps and sell drugs back in Brooklyn.
Yeah,
it was.
He was ready to go. Even before me.
I had all my imagination pointed to revenge. I was like, I was thinking creative ways. The pee in the ice tray to save it. I was thinking all kind of wild things.
Drop my AC off the top floor.
Oh my god!
I'm gonna set it to super cold so icicles can form and it drops on them.
Just get creative.
Right, yeah, crush glass on the steps when they sit, put the crazy glue. That was all kind of wild stuff.
So this is a mutual decision. That's incredible.
Yeah, it was time.
Yeah.
It was time.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and Baltimore has just been so giving and so dope. Like the people, and I haven't gotten to the. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm on the verge of getting to the dirty, but like people have been like, even artists are. It's not crabs in a barrel out here. People are like, wow, you won. That's great. We won. Like,
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I will say one thing that I also find the various scenes here in Baltimore to be incredibly welcoming, and that's wonderful. I also think, though, that a part of the reason why people feel that expansiveness with each other is kind of because of the lack of industry. Do you know what I mean?
That's true too.
Like, I think people are very supportive of each other because they recognize, like, we are all we got.
True.
You know what I mean? Nobody's coming here to Baltimore to like get on and blow up. in that way.
Yeah.
And if they were, there might be a sense of
scarcity and it's either you or me, and I'm gonna
exactly.
Right.
I think that there is a lot of family feeling that comes from that underdog sense that we're like, yo, let's do this.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Right.
Let's make this hot together, and it's gonna be us around this table because we are literally the only people who are around this table and who are listening to each other. Like, it's really just us.
Yes.
Let's make it work. Let's make it hot. Let's work together to try to make it.
But what's happening, and I feel it, is like the world's listening.
Yeah,
like
I think so too.
And just due to technology, it's become a smaller place, and Baltimore's voice is just so unique and so on time, and so it's the future, and I see it. Like it's and it's a solid voice. It's not like, oh, let's try. It's a thing, and it exists, and we're kind of comfortable in that space. And
I worry about how the story's gonna get told. I mean, especially since
facts.
I mean, we had that. I was talking to Dante about the comedy article that came out previously. That was very dismissive of
a lot of different scenes.
Like 3 or 4 scenes within the comedy scene.
Of course.
It was like someone wrote an article about Baltimore comedy but didn't speak to any Baltimore comedians.
Right.
At all.
They only like went to the institutions that you could find if you Google Baltimore comedy. You'll find like 3 theaters.
And they talk to those
and they talk to those 3 theaters, like that are in the yellow pages under
Yes.
Baltimore comedy, and they talk to the people who run those theaters, and then whichever comedian happened to be in the room at that time.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they didn't actually do things like
It was
it was like some late homework.
Yeah. They didn't even ask a person about it. I was like, none of the rooms that happened during the course of the week, none of the big ones, not even sidebar.
Come on, man, sidebar. That's a
sidebar.
It wasn't even mentioned. Like that's the thing that people do here for comedy wasn't mentioned.
But that's why these kind of podcasts are important. We have to make document of what has happened. You know what I mean? Like we have to build evidence, build our case. You know what I'm saying? Or else then we don't. This gives voice to that moment. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, and the playing field is level enough at this point right now where we can put ours next to theirs and say, you know, this happened.
Right. Definitely.
So, your time between New York and LA, how did that affect you as a filmmaker and artist?
The time between LA and here, okay, so any vacation that was over 3 days long, I flew back to New York. And so then I became kind of the culture ambassador. You know, this is pre-internet. So I was like, I would go to all the stores that I knew, all the hip stores, gather everything. Yo, Batman medallions are hot, so I get those. I get oils. I get, all the new slang. I'd have like 3 cassette players taping all the different hot New York shows at the same time. I wasn't even listening to it till I got back. And then I just would bag up all of this culture. Something I didn't think of as culture when I was living there. But bag it up. And then I'd send it back. And then same, all the friends in New York that I still had, I would be like, well, in Cali, they say Finta means fixing to go. Which you know what I mean? There was still like this big cultural gap. And I mean, hip hop was the internet. So that's how we learned who we were. And I was the hand-on ambassador. well, what that means. Why the Jerry curl is still scary is because they're so gangster that they can be effeminate. That's why their nails are long. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so I was that dude. So, but it gave me a better understanding of culture, and it gave me, as far as being a filmmaker, common language. So I was just like, okay, this joke or this visual gag or this image or these colors work universally. You know what I mean? They work in both spaces. I could say this thing and it's funny to both coasts or both ideas of culture in this moment. And so it really helped me kind of use less words to say more, or use less colors or less images. Even my paintings and drawings became way more simple. You know what I mean? I learned to just draw a circle and have that circle mean a thing in a different place on the page you know what I mean? Like the language of visual arts became more simple, but a lot more powerful. So that's what I gained from that time in Cali. Just the power of language. Yeah.
So, came to Baltimore. So, were you married before you came to Baltimore, or you got married in Baltimore?
We were married,
like almost less than a year after we met. Pretty much, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we got married in '99.
Oh.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So, tell me about your last name.
Oh, we didn't.
Okay.
So
please.
Your last name is a very unique last name. Tell me how it came to be, please.
Okay. So we Bennu is the name of a mythical fire heron in ancient Egypt's mythological system, and so it is the precursor of the phoenix myth. It symbolizes rebirth and the power of the sun.
Oh wow!
And yeah, we love it. But
and it begins with a B, so we didn't have to change our monogram towels.
Both of our last names that began with B at birth, and so when we got married, we liked the idea of having the idea of having a new name at marriage is not a problem, but there are weird
whose slave name should we have?
Yeah,
yours or mine?
Yeah, and your father's or my father's, or you know what I mean? Like not even every time you take a name, you're choosing one thread of the family story to continue, and you're dropping three. Ultimately, you know what I mean? So we thought that it might be fun to celebrate the rite of passage and to celebrate the creation of our new family, with both of us having a new name that we could feel.
And there's
really
power in names, you know what I'm saying? Like there's power in words, and I'm just like, okay, we're carrying on these names, and that's not to diss anyone who's kept their names, but just looking at names and finding out the power and you know what I mean? Just having a point on that family tree that like what happened here? Yeah. Like having future generations have to ask that question.
When you talk about storytelling and the power of, the power to name is the power to create your own story, Yes. And yeah, like so the enslavers of your patriarchal ancestors or the enslavers of my patriarchal ancestors, whose story are we going to tell? And then we thought claiming the power to begin our own story would be pretty cool.
And fun.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Yeah. Wow.
So we have our little guys are the only born Bennus we know.
This is really cool.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, we think that's pretty nice.
Wow. That's cool as hell.
I think the funny thing that I go with, my last name is Cotton. So everybody, as soon as I tell them I design clothes, they that's the joke that they go to. So dealing with that, and some people think it's a made up last name, or like when I was playing basketball, they was like, I didn't know that was really your last name. It's not just a random nickname. Yeah.
I'm always swishing the ball. That's really cool. Yeah. So you probably hear stuff about that all the time.
It's funny.
I had to fight not to say something when I heard you say that. Not do that.
Yeah, I've gone through that too.
So how the process of making new formulas and things like that? You said it's a new sort of chapter because you had like a bunch of formulas that you had made a couple years ago. Yes. Now you're finally getting some time. Yeah. What have you learned over the years that's kind of informed the new formulas?
So, interestingly, much of what I've learned in the past, because it's been 3 years since my most recent, the lotion that you love, the No Ash at All lotion, that was our most recent.
No Ash at All. That's fun naming them, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so a lot of what I've learned has been marketing and messaging lessons. The products were created, 15 years ago, the bulk of them. Right. And then every couple of years I'd introduce one or two new products, but we were selling them primarily online. So that gives you a whole lot of time and space with which to communicate all kinds of things. The story of the product, that, the what's in it and why what's in it is important. And you're getting that chance because you've got a long product description. Also, you're dealing with a population who has who has come to you already. They've already come to your website, right?
Yeah.
Whereas being in distribution, you are on the shelf, and you get that first eye blink instinctual decision making moment happens like on the basis of what your bottle looks like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you've got to try to tell your story in a very different medium and in a very different time frame.
Yeah.
And so, for instance, one of the things that we learned, we had a multicolored line. Like each of our products' labels is a different color. And one of the things we learned is that when you're at the shelf in a personal care section, is that consumers' eyes are drawn toward blocks of color. And so even though our line, when all 8 of the products are together, like make a really pleasing, wonderful palette, which is how we decided to choose the colors that we chose. What if a retailer only chooses 4 of those 7 things? Or what if they choose a different mix than each other? Then that customer, what is going to remind them of which of that product that they like? How are they going to know that the product next to it they'll also like because it comes from the same company? You know what I mean? So just that kind of visual messaging stuff has been a very interesting and ancillary lesson to the making of the products. But it's like, how do we message things about the product in that visual space that get that information across quicker and in that instant moment? So all that is to say, as I'm going through and creating new products, I'm thinking about them in clusters. I'm thinking about them in like, are there more than one product that can use this set of active ingredients so that I can group them together, and then we can keep kind of our multi-colorful idea, but create smaller clusters of products that do group together under a single color. So that we're just trying to play with the marketing stuff and with the packaging, and then also building products for that project is enables us to think about ways that we can group active ingredients together, or the ways different ingredient stories can work together. So,
right.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And we're rediscovering like the video online thing. Like we used to have a talk show. We had a series, like an 8-part series that was like basically a Tonight Show. It was just us and like the 2 people we had working for us at the time. Yeah. And we played all the characters. We played the guests. We played the musical guests at the end. We had tips and tricks, and we dressed up in Rastafarian wigs and musical instruments. It was bad, but really like fun to do. But I mean, it was goofy because YouTube was still very new, and there were like no rules. But there was like not a lot of. There wasn't a whole bunch of hits to be had. People weren't even really checking for hair tips online at that point. But now it's like you fast forward 15 years or 10 years now. And people, that's the main way they get their information. So like, we just finished. So we're having to reshape ourselves in that moment. It's like being Blockbuster, right? Now people are getting stuff online for free. I'm like, well, how do I, as Blockbuster, reshape? You know what I'm saying? What it is we do to a language that's of the moment. And so we're in the works. Like we're figuring that out right now. I'm figuring that out right now as far as just visual language and sharp storytelling. But it's fun. It's fun.
It is.
Yeah.
So Exit the Apple. Ronald says art space to him. So is it kind of like a private art space? Is it like your sanctuary? Do you invite people in?
It's yes. We call it a semi-public art space. It is my sacred space as well as it is where I tend to create most of my work. But as it's become more public, I've kind of been backing away.
It is available for rentals, and we also do a few public events that we do ourselves, and then it's also available for rental for other people's events, which to us felt like a really important way to help the space pay for itself. Again, we can't afford hobbies. And then B, also kind of serve our community. Yeah. There are not a lot of spaces, and as we, Pierre needed a space to work, but also he didn't have a space to do the kinds of public events that we're doing either. And so we thought there are other people in our community who may want to do events or classes or workshops, or may need a space to audition, or may need a space to shoot, you know, and don't have that space. We're located centrally in the city, and we work hard to keep our prices really accessible, so that like nonprofits and youth groups and individuals can come and try to like work on audience development. Like we talked earlier about about the fact that the creative industries in Baltimore, there's a lot of room and opportunity for growth there. And so like thinking about things like audience development and offering creative workspace in a way that lets people like practice and practice shooting and get their portfolios up, and like that work together in a way that's more easily and can enable them to have like higher production value. So we have there's a big meeting room, there's a kind of a stage / wooden platform thing, and that is also a shooting studio with a green screen and a white cyc wall. So we think it's a pretty flexible space, but it's also pretty grassroots, and
it's great. And I love the fact that a lot of people, like I just try to think of myself as an artist early on. What would I have wanted? What would I have loved to have the opportunity? Like if I had just a space if I had my 15, whatever, how many dollars I have to just team up with someone else and do something, what would I? Right. And I see so many people in Baltimore talking about how I viewed New York back in the day. There was no space. There was just no space. Yeah. And I'm looking at what Baltimore's turning into. And even the companies and people who are out there trying to so-called help, artists, struggling artists or whatever, some of them, I don't know if their price point and who they are structurally benefits the people who need it the most. And I'm trying to reach those people and have them just flex that muscle. And to the older folks who have not maybe even recognized, get that atrophy off and just, re-exercise that muscle. Yeah. And it's becoming a sacred space for other people, which is awesome. Yeah. Which is really awesome.
That is, I mean, I don't know how many times I've gone to an event and it's like, oh man, I didn't even know things like this existed. Hearing things like that, and these are people that have been in Baltimore for 20, 30 years, sometimes more, never experiencing something that is intimate and inclusive, but also curated in a good way. You know what I mean? It's pretty nice. It's nice to see. Yeah.
And then the other thing I was thinking about, you mentioned hip hop. So was that a big influence to you over the time of like you doing your art, or? Yeah,
I mean, hip hop to me is like Buddhism, man. It's like a way of thinking that is applicable regardless of religion or the way you think. Like, I grew up in New York when hip hop hit. You know what I mean? Like I can remember before hip hop was on, like rap was on the radio. I remember waking up and there being whole murals on trains, like being like those kids' size, little dude, seeing like murals and just thinking like those guys were my heroes. Like they snuck out at night, they stole their material, they were making these murals in the dark, and they knew it was only gonna last for a moment, and they didn't care what anyone else thought. These were for other people who understood and appreciated the language. I'm like, those are superheroes to me. Yeah. And so that aesthetic, to see that aesthetic become worldwide, like that's revolutionary. They changed how we think. People sample, they were like, these records are old, I'll take them, and from these dead pieces, I'm gonna make something brand new. Some of those records they sample from, everyone who was on that record's dead. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, right. But here's this brand new song made of pieces of time and space. Like literally you took time and space and made a new vibration that is futuristic. Like to me that was science fiction. Like hip hop was this new way of thinking, and you don't have to be a rapper or a graffiti artist to take that way of thinking and apply it to medicine, apply it to we have to film.
One of Pete's most popular pieces is a video. He calls it a video altar piece. It's a mashup of kind of like international and intertemporal black dance set to a song by Imani Uzuri called Sun Moon Child. And it's again like actually, you did shoot some of the footage in it, but most of the 90% of the footage in it is found footage. Oh. It's all like like pulled and connected and remixed, and the way that he has connected it tells a new story. It tells a story of like diasporic connection. It tells a story of the celebration of movement and of the body, and of culture and of like the ways that dance is a universal language that can connect through time and space.
Wow. And it's also like when I pictured it, I was like, what would an altarpiece look like 500 years from now? Right? Because altarpieces now have like photographs on them, and photographs are kind of new technology. So like, what antiquated technology are we going to have in the future? And so that's where that idea came out from. But also, as being hip hop. It was one of the first things kind of taken down from YouTube. Like, I had 1 million views at one point, and then YouTube was like, nah, somebody doesn't want. This is before the what is it called? Rights of usage? No,
the Creative Commons.
Yes, this is one of those things that kind of had that controversy. So I took it down for like 2 years after that, or they took it down, and I kept it off. And by the time I decided to put it back on, there were all these like. New kind of rules like in place, right? And people had started doing the stuff with like the news footage and turning them into songs and that that kind of stuff. So there had been a lot of conversation in the internets about remixing and fair use and commons and that kind of stuff. And so it was weird because it was like right on the border of not being legal and then being legal, and then that legality benefiting them because it's like, oh, you can tag the people who's, you know what I mean? Right. And it's the same with hip hop. Like, graffiti used to be on trains and buses. Like, this is disgusting. And now that's how you advertise. You put it all over the bus or the train. You know?
Yeah. Shazam. It's like we're almost making the technology better through Shazam. They use that technology to get all the music.
Yeah.
Right.
So I guess to kind of we have this music section that we do. We basically it's called the Branded 10, where we basically get you guys to make a playlist of 10 songs that kind of represent. You can either do two separate playlists. If you do two separate playlists, or one combined 5 and 5.
What do you think?
You mean off top right now?
No, you don't.
No, you don't have to do it off top.
Okay.
We'll get them and then we'll post it with the podcast when it comes.
How fun is that?
Who's I? Oh, that's
y'all are brilliant.
That's
it's
awesome.
like a companion piece to the podcast.
I love that.
Y'all are bad.
Okay.
That's great. That's dope.
Yeah. What would you? So do you want to do 2 or do you want to do one that's 5 and 5? I
make my list with your list. I mean, I don't want to bust up. You know what I'm saying? The shit roll, but I mean, how you want to?
Pierre is a DJ. One of the other things is that he is a DJ, like a remarkable, like eclectic DJ. Like I wouldn't. You're gonna have one really awesome, amazing playlist, and then another that's like full of '90s nostalgia.
Oh, that's equally as great. I love that stuff. Don't get me wrong. I love that.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of our podcast.
Oh, that's dope.
And then I guess the favorites. Did you want to do that real quick? Just some quick hits about your favorite things. Like your favorite film.
Oh, cheese and bread. My favorite film. That's hard. Don't say Empire Strikes Back.
That's the one I see you watching them.
That has replay value forever. Underappreciated film I can say that no one likes. My Dinner with Andre. I like that film because it's just a conversation. And I thought that was so courageous because I'm like, that's horrible. Like, that's a horrible idea. That's a horrible idea. But if
it's like 200 cigarettes. Is it like that? You know, where like the guys are sitting at the table talking. This came out after that, obviously.
Right. I haven't seen 200. I saw Cigarettes and Coffee.
Yeah. Then there's like a sequel that's like. It's like a sequel to it. It's like 200. It's
Jarmusch as well? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, what is that? Hold up. Does the first one have RZA in it?
Yes.
There's a something like that.
Okay.
So yeah, I hesitate to say it, but it's a really underappreciated film. So it would probably be My Dinner with Andre or Network or Empire Strikes Back or More Better Blues. I mean, I could go on, but for now, I'll just say, because this is where my head is at, right? I'll just say My Dinner with Andre.
Okay. What about you, Jamyla? Favorite movie?
The Princess Bride.
That's a good one. That's a good one, too. Favorite album?
Ooh.
Damn. For both of you.
Favorite album?
Your favorite albums.
Mm-hmm.
Shoot, man.
It would. Ooh.
I mean, I love Sign of the Times. I love Paid in Full.
Ooh. Did you get them performing the whole album in New York?
They just announced it like a couple days ago.
I'm gonna say this about Rakim: no shots. Maybe a little bit of shots. Not the most entertaining performer.
I've heard that.
Very, very you know.
The
very karaoke.
Not the
yes. Like, are we all singing this, or are we here to watch you do it? No shots. Love. Love Paid in Full. You could listen to. It changed the game. It takes a nation from public. Like, there's so many things popping through my head.
Mine would be a Tribe album.
Woo.
I think.
Okay, which one?
This is
one
tough.
that's in my head.
This
That's
is
very.
tough. It's so I have the strong nostalgia for People's Instinctive Travels.
Okay.
But I think that the
Low End.
Yeah, I think Low End is the one.
I'm the same way with De La Soul.
Yeah, there's also
De La
a De La in the mix too, like as
because their first
like,
one changed. The first one was like Me and My Friends did that album.
Yeah.
I was like I was looking over my shoulder like, this is great. Some of my boys send me this.
Right.
So the first De La album,
but
or
De
the
La
third
Soul
one,
dead.
Balloon Mind State.
Yeah.
Replay value on that is.
Yeah.
I need to get into more De La. I was more of a Tribe dude. Like Midnight Marauders. To me is the perfect listening experience. You can sit down, turn it on, clean up, eat.
Right.
It's a polished up Low End.
It is.
Whatever the theory was, it became a law.
They solidified the theory.
A lot of people are anti-consequence when he starts to come into the mix, but I don't know. I like consequence.
I also really like Deion Ferris's Wild Seed, Wild Flower album.
Okay. I'm talking about it. Anita Baker, right? We are getting old. We getting old. We get new. Dang, man.
And then there's another one that was, again, just, I think it is a very listenable album. It's a soundtrack. It's really listenable, but also I think it had like a big cultural moment.
Which one?
The Love Jones soundtrack.
Oh,
Love Jones. That's a beast.
I feel that way about the Boomerang soundtrack.
Okay.
Yo, the 90s soundtrack, some of them were better than the movie.
The Love Jones soundtrack is better.
Like,
let's just say that. But Boomerang as a body of work, I throw that out as an album. I'm like, this is not a soundtrack. This is just
More Better Blues. The soundtrack is berserk. Like as a jazz album, it's.
I need to watch that movie again. I love Spike Lee, especially. Where does it
The first five.
The first 5 films with him, Monty Ross, and Ernest Dickerson.
Not the first 5.
What do you mean?
The first 5 without the first one.
Oh, okay. Yeah. When I say the first 5, you put that in because it's first. No shots.
Does it stop at? Did you like Crooklyn?
Crooklyn is the family one, right?
Yeah.
Like you always think Crooklyn and the other one with the drug dealer one. Yeah, I love Crooklyn.
I like Bamboozled too.
Yeah.
It kind of stopped at Bamboozled for me.
Okay.
That was the last one I saw in the theater and was like, okay. It's wild. It goes off the rails, but I get.
Bamboozled is.
It is nuts. It is a tough one.
Yeah.
There was some choices.
It's on the cusp there.
It is.
Was it a success?
It got to a point where.
Or did it almost do it?
Yeah.
You know, like
That's a movie I could see people going to see and walking out. Because when I was there, I saw the Charles when it first came out.
Wow.
I remember it getting to a point where the filming of the show came out. People were like, nope. Watermelon.
Right.
Sleep and eat. Nope. Not today. Not today.
What's our album? Let's pick one. Let's just be grown-ups about
I think it's too late. We've already said
like 10.
He's like 10. But seriously.
I also really like the Portishead's Dummy.
Okay.
Yeah, and then, again, I think that was like signified a moment of like elements of hip hop beats being launched onto a world stage and out of its own genre, which is a whole nother conversation. It was like a British band who did it, but and you know what I mean, like that whole thing. But like I think it was done beautifully and was really, really interesting music.
We didn't do Dr. Buzzes. We didn't do Stevie Wonder.
Samande.
That might have to.
So
be
this just see the playlist.
Okay.
Yeah. Samande is. I don't know. That was.
Yeah.
Any other questions you want to ask before we
I was going to say, I think to kind of sum it up, the one, I guess, project or creation that you guys have put together, what do you think is your favorite? What would sum up what you do?
I don't know. This is corny. I can't believe I'm about to say this. But I think the kids is kind of a big deal. You know, like the fact that we made new humans. Yeah. And
very funny, very
we love them, but
what we call that an accomplishment?
Have you gotten to the point where you look at them and you're like, these are smarter, faster versions?
They're definitely the new iPhones. We haven't uploaded all the information.
Those little goobers still got some catching up to do.
Let me say this. The youngest one did something in school because we always find out stuff, So he did something in school. So yes, let's rock with that. The kids are probably our.
They're an ongoing project,
but it's ill to see the things that we think about flip out into the world. Like he used to love pink, the youngest one, and he used to catch heat about loving pink. So I'm like, I'm a little boy, I love pink. What's up? And
And he used to have to really advocate for himself for daring to like that color. Like, because we talked to him about it. So-and-so said, pink is a girl's color, but it's just a color. I like to color in pink. And like that's him like kind of instinctively bridling against that, policing of masculinity that all little boys go through. And so and then we would have conversation with him about it. His teachers were very supportive, would have conversation with him about it. And then we try to give him tools to articulate what he already was feeling.
And so it was kind of a mute point, and I think his color changed to purple for a little while. And then somebody in class, they were reading some story, and some boy had on pink, and
No, it was Gracie for President. So there's this picture book that
say it.
That's about a class election and that they went through and learned about the Electoral College and through the mechanism of a little girl and a little boy who were running for president. So it talks about the campaign system. It talks about making claims and are you making claims that you can actually do, or are you making claims that you just think people will like then. If there was a girl and a boy and like the votes were split, but because of the Electoral College, like it meant that if the boys all voted for the boy would automatically win, and if it's really good. And this is a picture book, like for and my kid's teacher, full disclosure, I lent it to her. But she
make the world that you want.
You got
anyway,
Go
ahead.
So it was a book that we already had that because of conversations that the teacher had with us, I lent it to her and she read it to the class. And the conversation that the kids had, the kindergartners had around that, the stuff of pink came up as well. And she mentioned it to us because she was really impressed.
He went Malcolm X. Pink didn't land on us. He went in. It ain't a girl color, it's a color. It's a color like a red is a color. It's a color like yellow.
And also like the whole, because some of the conversation was on some ew girls and yuck and because they learned that stuff early and so part of what he was advocating was on behalf of but if she was better then he should have voted for her, and so that kind of stuff, and just kind of this is also the one who asks Alexa for news about Donald Trump. Like he just really is a thinker, and like you can see him making connections between the things that we talk about and the things that he's learning about the world on his own. And then like going off onto his own tangents in ways that are very impressive, to me.
And the other one is just insanely talented but doesn't he doesn't always put it front page for you. He waits till you're like, yeah, word, and then he'll show you some otherworldly thing, and then just keep it back in the tuck. Like, I'm gonna be rude again. I'm gonna be a kid, but the next time you come out your face, I'm gonna do something you've never seen before. I'm gonna be like, whoa, and it's something that you planted and didn't know stuck.
So there's also the fact that one of our boys is on the autism spectrum. So we've learned a lot about like neurological atypicality and about like that particular type of difference. You know, like a difference in the way that your brain is wired and the things that may be a challenge for you because of that, and some of the things that may be easier for you because of that, and some of the strengths that you get, and some, you know what I mean, and some just and working with him to try to, and just generally as a parent, the project, right, for parenting is about, you know, first you got to keep them alive until they can like, you know, not break them, right? But
everything
then
else kind of falls out the window.
They're very easy to break.
Yeah, it's terrifying. But then also, like they're small humans, so you want to give them the tools that they need to be both a participant in the world, and then also to be their own best self. You know, and so that's like the big umbrella of the project as we see it, and it's been just really interesting trying to figure out what that is and what that looks like for each of these unique individuals, because they're so different from each other. Right. They're each so different from each of us. You know, so it's like it's a constant it's a constant challenge. Like, how do we figure this out? How do we give them what they need? How do we figure out what they need? And then, you know? Yeah.
So that's our ongoing art project.
That's a great answer.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think you can beat that.
Right. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you for having us, man.
Where can we find you on social media? Where can we find your company's website?
Sure.
Exit the Apple Art Space on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook.
I think it's Exit the Apple on Twitter and Facebook.
Oh, right. Thank you. But Exit the Apple Art Space on
Instagram.
On Instagram. Yeah.
And we are at exittheapple.com also.
Yep.
We're at oyinhandmade.com. At Oyin Handmade, that's Oyin, Handmade, Handmade, not handmade as in the Handmaid's Tale.
Make that distinction.
Handmade as in made by hand. And it's in, we are on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram as that. And then I'm also on Instagram as Hey Jamyla, which you don't have to follow because I don't do much there.
Cool.
Anything we should look for anytime soon?
Well, yeah, if you're local to Baltimore, we have 2 events coming up in early August. The third installment of the Irregardless
comedy variety show.
It's already?
It's number 3 coming up. Yeah, in early August. That first
August 5th.
Saturday of
so
August.
It'll be very fun.
And then on August 13th, we have our late summer pop-up, The Exchange, which is a micro-entrepreneurial marketplace and pop-up that we do once a season at the Art Space. And then keep an eye out for some awesome new goodies from Oyin Handmade that are going to blow your mind.
Yes. Which are geared towards, some of them are geared towards men. We have a men's collection that's berserk. And we have not even gone into it yet, but I'm a dude who doesn't really take care of myself, and I'm excited for these products.
My arm fell off yesterday. I don't take good care of myself. I need some of your products.
And the thing was, like, he was texting me all day with that one arm, like he wasn't even worried about it.
You wouldn't even have known until I took that selfie. It was
Goodness.
Wow. Yeah, and we also on the Exit the Apple side have some like t-shirts and books and prints from a lot of the arts stuff in there. So that's about to pop.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you.
Summer's out.
So much.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Indeed.
As far as the podcast, debonairmaterial.com, you can also find the apparel there. All the episodes up from season 1 and season 2. Debonair Material on Instagram, Deb Material on Twitter. And Facebook is Debonair Material as well. Ron and I are going to get an intern soon so they can actually do a page specifically for the podcast. We've had some people, ask about it, so we'll dedicate one specifically to it. We have the live event coming up July 13th for Baltimore County Public Libraries. Pretty much just talking about how we started the podcast. It's called BC Mixes the series. They invited us out to come and talk, so we'll be doing that. And where can they find you, Ron?
Ron James. Who is Ron James on everything? I'm trying to make everything that I do under the same name.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rhyming, stand up. I want to film some shorts this summer. Yes. So yeah, you can find me. Who is Ron James? Thank you so much for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Pierre, it's been incredible.